Good morning.
Good morning, Joel. How the heck are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good. Can't complain. Although I can complain. um, we have had a little bit of a misadventure over the last week or so. I was stung by a stingray.
Why?
Why?
Yeah. Why did you put yourself in this position?
You know, I really love the ocean, and I'm a little upset that it stuck me.
What were you doing?
I was surfing and I jumped off my board. I felt a prick, and then I thought it was a shell or maybe a piece of glass because the ocean can be dirty. And I got off, I walked offshore. I see this little thing sticking out of my foot, and I yank it out, and then it starts gushing. I should have done a graphic disclaimer.
Thank you for the photos. I appreciate that. Are you okay?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I had antibiotics. I got an x-ray done. We're good. It's healing. But it is, wow. Be careful. PSA, SoCal, surfers, swimmers, shuffle your feet. Make sure you wear those sand socks or shark socks, whatever they call them.
Or just don't go in the ocean. Like, just go to a pool. You can have a cocktail, lie by the edge, like, just chill. Like, this is why I'm lazy. I don't get hurt because I'm lazy.
I mean, some would say that that is smart and survival-minded thinking, which
is scary is that somebody would say being lazy is smart, but yeah. I'll take it.
I do have to say, though, I got to give a big shout out to the Doc Weiler lifeguards, especially Cosmo. If you're watching, thank you. They did an amazing job. I love our lifeguards, so big shout out.
Well, I'm glad you're on the men's. This is good. I mean, so when are you going surfing again?
As soon as it's better and I'm not horrified, and people have already told me that they will buy me these socks as protective gear. So I might take all precautions.
So just go in like a medieval suit of armor and, so it rusts, whatever. You'll still be protected.
If we do that and also I would still float, that'd be perfect.
So can you believe it? We got renewed. We're on our second episode. So we're going to say renewed because Christina could have easily just said, we're not doing this anymore. So this is exciting. We're back.
We're back. The people needed it.
Yes. And so today, our featured guest will be the chairman of the board, Mr. Jonathan Lonner. I don't know if he wants to go by John or Jonathan. So we'll say Jonathan, make it sound formal up front. We'll get to the John part later. He is with Burns and Bouchard, and I believe he is on standby and ready to join us.
Oh.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
How are you?
I'm great. I like how we started today with a public service announcement not to go in the ocean, ever, ever.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that also happened to a friend of yours before.
It did. 2 weeks ago, we were at the beach lifeguard station 15 up at Will Rogers, and he was paddleboarding and did the exact same thing, hopped off, stepped on it. The lifeguard was not as nice to him as he was to you. He made him walk back to his car. So there are positives.
But that's just me. I'm just saying pool. Give me a pool any day of the week. I mean, you don't have to really do anything except sit, which I'm very good at.
Pools are looking pretty good right about now.
So, John, thank you so much for being our guest, although I don't think Christina gave you a choice. But
of course, I'm happy to be here. Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday to you as well. So now you are with Burns and Bouchard.
I am.
So tell us a little bit about them.
So, sorry to step on your question.
All right.
I won't do it ever again, or at least 5 more times this morning. Burns and Bouchard is a public affairs company. We do building permits, planning approvals, and community outreach and lobbying, primarily in the city of Los Angeles. About 10 years ago, right as we were coming out of the recession, my wife and I thought that the firms we were at, we could take the capacity that we learned there and bring it to a unique and boutique firm to really help people navigate the city process. And over those 10 years, we've been pretty successful and really excited to be able to choose projects that we want to work on, that we think are good for neighborhoods, and have a little fun along the way.
So is this you and your wife? This is your firm, the two of you?
It is.
Family fun.
It is. You get the whole family. You get the kids too, whether you want them or not. It's a package deal.
I think it's good. You gotta get those kids working. I mean, who cares about child labor laws?
It's actually funny. We started together, given some of the changes in state legislation, rules, and regulations. We actually have two separate companies, but we really riff off each other really well. So we like working in teams together. We do work separately. I tend to do a lot of the really boring, mundane technical stuff, talking about municipal codes and code sections and that type of item. She does the much more fun, much more visible community outreach and consultation with council offices and supervisors and that kind of stuff. So she is the fun, wonderful, happy, boisterous one. And I'm the one sharpening the pencil, trying to make sure projects can work on the entitlement side.
I love that. What did you both work in the same industries before you joined forces also?
So sort of, we were on opposite sides. She comes from a government background. She was the chief planner for Councilwoman Cindy Misikowski when she was in office. She represented CD11 and Westchester, Playa del Rey, Venice, all of those areas that you know and love. I came from the private sector side. I worked for developers and was interfacing with her and the building department and planning department from the private side. So we met doing that on the work side, and then wound up getting married and having kids.
I feel like you're living in a romantic comedy. Like that is like such the plot line. Like you're Tom Hanks, she's Meg Ryan. You got to save the bookstore, and the next thing you know, we're married and we started a firm.
I've been looking for the residual checks for many, many years.
So what got you involved with the chamber?
So we were involved with the chamber because we had some projects that came to Westchester and we wanted input. We met with Vitalization and the neighborhood council and all of those players, but we also wanted to see what small business and business groups wanted to see about those projects. And as we continued to come and meet with the chamber, we really loved the people who were engaged. We loved Christina, we loved Tom Flintoff and Dave Voss, and really the entire board was just such a group of friendly people who were willing to talk about projects where we had failed in bringing them a good project, where we had succeeded in really showing them what the possibilities of site could be, that we ended up joining. And through joining, we've had the benefit of being involved for, I think it's 7 or 8 years at this point. My wife is a past chair, and I now am the current chair. So either it's a glutton for punishment, or we really like everyone involved, and I think it's the latter.
That's awesome. I'm curious too, we obviously are big chamber fans. We love working with the local businesses just a little bit, but can you kind of tell us from your business standpoint, what the layout of LA with all of these changes and everything that's going on in relation to, urban planning and affordable housing, and kind of what your perspective is on all of it and how you see it going?
Sure. I think it's an interesting time because you have two forces that are really at odds, government and neighborhoods. And the government side, you have the state and the city fighting about whose responsibility are things like affordable housing, neighborhood policing. How do you roll out those items in a way that keeps people safe, keeps people housed? And on a lesser level, as we've seen in Los Angeles, how do you provide effective kind of healthcare support for that? Then on the neighborhood level, I think you see a lot of the same desires out of people who are looking for kind of these full communities who have a number of desirous projects and local business. But when they come together, they don't always agree on how that comes out. The state and the city are pushing dense solutions because of the amount of housing units that we need to provide affordable options for young students or people who may not be making a living wage. Neighborhoods are kind of split between those that really want investment in their downtown cores, like the Westchester BID, or areas like Westwood or downtown, where they want to see density and they want to see that economic vitality, that people walking around, keeping local business open until 10, 12, 2 in the morning, so that there's a tax base and there are safer streets. And then you have other community members who really want to keep some of our single family communities smaller and more kind of sleepy town, a little bit more like Burbank or some suburban areas that are more out in the hinterlands. And it's that divide that we find makes for the best conversation. It really gets to the point of what do we really want and how do we translate that into a project. Some projects do that really well. Other projects don't do that really well. And then there's some in the middle that you think are going to really succeed and end up being kind of blah. But they're all addressing different needs. They're all providing for the community in different ways. I think that's where we think that it's a lot of fun, trying to make that you're really building a puzzle without knowing what the picture is. The picture comes later. It's that vitality, it's the future of a neighborhood. And in fitting those puzzle pieces together, that's where you get interaction with people. You get kind of code compliance issues about setbacks and yards and height. And where all of those meet is what makes a project good.
So that's got to be interesting though, because you get all the conversation. And I love that you talked about that, because I think we're kind of losing that a lot. And no matter what our world is in general, is that people don't have the conversation. So I love that you guys are doing that by bringing, I hate saying opposing forces, but just the different viewpoints together to try to find the common ground, because really that's where everything builds off of, is the common ground, because we don't live in utopia. It's just not real. Nobody's ever going to be perfectly happy. So try to find that middle ground is so important, especially for what you're doing. I mean, when you talk about affordable housing, we all know that that's a big issue here in LA. I mean, I don't even know what you qualify as affordable housing for Southern California, because that's a whole other set of issues right there. I mean, I always tell people we don't live in reality, we live in Los Angeles. I mean, it's completely different. So where do you foresee things like, because I know you're dealing with a lot of the commercial and the multi-unit housing developments, based upon the current financial world that we're in right now and the needs that we have, as well as you're getting all the viewpoints from various people, where do you see this actually going? I mean, do you see that we're going to start getting the building that we need, as well as, I mean, it's a tough call.
It's really hard, because I think there is a timeline factor and a money factor that you have to overlay onto that great need that we have. I know all of us collectively have voted for local propositions, state propositions, all to fund affordable housing. And when the press releases come out about these ballot measures, they identify X number of units that are going to be able to be built because of this. And we all vote for these measures, assuming that we will hit that number. And when we don't, we kind of get angry, because we voted for these particular ballot measures because we thought that it would help fast track affordable housing, get it in the ground, and start dealing with this overwhelming need. I think that's the first friction that we see, is affordable housing, because of the multiple funding sources that it has, and because it also tries to build in efficiencies during the construction phase. Affordable housing projects typically have higher levels of green compliance, solar, different type of water management, stormwater, so that they can defray some of the operational costs that would normally happen with a typical apartment building. So they front load those costs. So those units are much more expensive than I think any of us would anticipate a market rate unit would be. At the same time, when we go to neighborhood councils or even the chamber with a large market rate project, no one sits there and asks us how much each unit is going to cost, because it's a private builder building a unit and no one really cares. But when their own money, even if it's an infinitesimal amount, pennies on their tax rolls, they feel invested and have the opportunity to say, well, this unit is too expensive. We should find another solution rather than putting affordable housing in our neighborhoods. I think that is the most dire part of the equation right now, is because we are so focused on the cost of these units and the cost to the taxpayer that it is kind of putting a cloud over the fact that there are a lot of projects that are getting approved and at least in the pipeline to build 100% affordable housing, 50% affordable housing, permanent supportive housing, all of these things in neighborhoods so that they're spread out across the city so that you don't have a neighborhood that has all of the affordable housing. And that's really the goal, is to put these projects next to where there are services so that a person who is down on their luck, or however you want to describe that, can continue with their support network. If they are a single parent or a family who has lost a job, whether it be through COVID or what have you, they want to be able to keep their kids in the same school. They want to be able to keep, the market that they go to and the hospital that they go to. They want to keep that framework of support so that they're not having to rebuild at possibly the worst time in their lives. And all of those things become very divisive when you're talking about projects, when you're talking about height, additional height to accommodate affordable housing. And I think it's that conversation that is really difficult in these communities. I think what we are seeing is the state and the city are both enacting new rules and regulations that say if you are providing levels of affordability at X, Y, or Z, we will process you faster. We will make a planning application that used to take 12 or 18 months, 90 to 120 days, because we know the need. So they are looking at these aspects and really trying to make them a very direct process, because they know that's the biggest impediment, at least to gaining certainty about what type of project you have. You still have the funding, you still have the construction, but little by little, those timelines are coming down. We're just well into an affordable housing crisis that we should have really been dealing with 20, 25 years ago. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
and I think that was interesting to hear how fast the timelines are changing. I think that's crazy. And also and I'm sorry, Meredith, I know you had a question, but it was I'm fascinated because it's like you address the building costs that we get more invested with it because it's the tax dollars. So we hear about how much more it costs to build, but we don't look at the end result, which is like, we're going to spend more now because we're going to be able to save so much more in the long run. And so it's just explaining the investment to people, because I don't know if people fully understand that or get that aspect of it.
I think it's also hard because they want to make sure that affordable housing units are not units that are built to a lesser standard than a market rate unit. They want to make sure that they have livability factors. I know in projects that we work on in Venice and Mid-City and even in the Valley, those 100% affordable housing projects have such strict design guidelines down to the dimensions of a closet, because they want to make sure that whoever lives in that unit can fully access it and has enough space to live their life. And it is not merely well, here's a 1-bedroom unit built to a studio standard, and you come in with a kid and dog. And it's a much more difficult process because the end user is really being chosen for you rather than the end user choosing an apartment. So it's a difficult dynamic.
I would tack on to what Joel was saying too. I think the upfront cost is what everyone focuses on and is so startling. But I also like that you were saying too, do you feel that more developers are also leaning towards the solar and the environmentally friendly developments, and we're not seeing that as the end result, which will benefit us, in the long run, whereas we just don't think about that right now. But that's something that I think is huge and is becoming more and more popular. Do you also see that happening, and maybe we can tell people the bright side of that?
I think we do. I think, look, affordable housing, in my perspective, has always been at the forefront of trying to save costs. They know that the state, the city, and the county, in terms of providing them funds, will give them certain requirements like solar we just talked about and other green requirements. They gave those well ahead of any of the green building codes that came out and were required of a market rate developer. The developers themselves know that those dollars are limited. The dollars throughout the state, county, and city have to fund, hundreds of thousands of units throughout the state. in the next, decade and on. And those dollars have to go further and further each year that we get into it. So really affordable housing were some of the people that were pushing modular housing concepts. How do you get most of the construction off-site so that you can do it quicker in a manufactured sterile environment, and then transport those modular units onto site, connect them on site, so that that is really where you look at rain delays and where you look at heavy concentrations of construction workers to try and whittle down a 12 to 18 month construction timeline down to maybe 6 or 8. So they're really pushing those boundaries. I think where the state and city have tried to be the catalyst and really push those issues beyond affordable housing is where we've seen the most kind of dynamism. We've seen new market rate housing go to modulars because they see efficiencies in dollars. We've seen larger projects go to modulars, 3, 4, 5-story building types, all stacking modulars together, housing units, rec centers. All of those are trying to go and build quicker, both for a cost impact, but as we talk about it with communities, looping back to the neighborhood conversation that you were talking about, Joel, getting in and out of a construction project impacts your neighbors less. Dust, sound, truck trips, all of those things. The quicker you can become a neighbor that is not out in your yard blowing dust around and banging a hammer, the quicker you become someone who is okay to be next to, who is contributing to the neighborhood, who's cleaning their sidewalks and making a vacant site livable. So I think even in the most cursory of reviews of how construction projects become better when those timelines are sped up, you feel better about your neighbor if it's not 18 months of, yelling at them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I love that. I am personally am a huge fan of the modular construction and the prefab movement. I am a massive fan of that. I mean, I know that there was, I think it was for homeless vets down in Long Beach, was it? Or was somewhere down there, they did a whole shipping container apartment community to get people off the street. And they were able, and not, I don't know how fast it was done, but it was obviously a lot bit faster than doing your stick and, put the studs up, do the drywall, do everything. So you could just get in there and like boom, 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 and you're out. And then it was able to create a beautiful grounds for people to take care of. And it becomes, like you said, it's part of the neighborhood now. It's a fixture there. And so, I mean, I'm a huge fan of, anybody who knows me and follows my social media, subtle plug, knows that I am a massive fan of all the prefab and the alternative housing angles that people are focusing on. I think they're awesome. So this was really cool with our chairman. I'm sorry, apparently it's our dynasty of chairmen in that house over there.
Like our whole family we're talking to.
I'm like,
well, we're gonna run my eldest son, who's 12, in about 5 years, see if he can get any votes for chair.
well, it feels like it's kind of a shoe-in. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know what's going on over there, how you guys got this on lock, but I don't know. I think we're gonna have to chat with somebody. Oh, who do we chat with? You're the chairman. Okay, so I think we're on to our rapid fire round.
Are you ready?
I'm not, but I will try my best.
Please. All right, you have 3 seconds to answer the following questions as quickly as you can. Ready?
Okay.
Set, go. Favorite local hangout?
The deli on Pershing, Delray Deli.
Cat person, dog person?
Dog person.
That's an easy one. Rams or Chargers?
Rams.
Oh, okay. Good brunch spot in LA?
Tony P's.
Love it. How long have you lived in LA?
I have lived in LA my entire life, 44 years. Born and bred.
Wow. Local. Royal
We
family.
can edit the age out later, right? We can fix that in post.
It's live. And how long have you been in business?
Burns and Bouchard has been around since 2009, so 10 years. I've worked in development for 20 years in and around Westchester, Playa del Rey, and Venice.
Awesome. What was your first car?
My first car was a Toyota Corona. It was a wonderful jalopy that had 150,000 miles on it.
Nice. And what are you currently watching?
I'm watching Cobra Kai. I highly recommend that.
Oh.
We just finished Away, with, I keep saying Christy Swanson, but it's not Christy Swanson. It's Hilary Swank. It's great. Not uplifting, but great.
I love it. Congratulations, you made it through rapid round. You survived.
But I have to address Cobra Kai.
I knew you were going to bring it up. I knew it.
Oh, wait, you're breaking up. It must be something wrong with the Zoom. Go for it.
So Cobra Kai, we watched both seasons, and basically by the third episode, all I could think was, guys, let go of high school. Time to just let go. It really is. But it was very entertaining. The fight scenes are pretty awesome. I will get the choreography for those is pretty
It is nice to see it from a different perspective.
Yes.
Yes, give up high school. Well into their 50s. Yes.
So one more question, because we're going to be running low on time here. How can people get in touch with you, and what kind of how as the chamber and the businesses and all of us, how can we support you? Give us your elevator pitch.
Sure. So we work with all size companies, from small tenant improvements on commercials through restaurants, and then big residential projects, as we talked mainly about. We have a website, burnsbouchard.com, although you can always find us on the chamber directory. You can go to LAX Chamber and then go to the directory. You can reach out to us via email. We also have Facebook and Twitter accounts. Both are bad, they need work, but we do a lot. And particularly in Westchester and Playa del Way, we really love working with small business. So if there are new commercial tenants moving in and they just need help with building permits, we do that. If they're looking for conditional use permits for alcohol or any type of live music, we do that as well. We have had some great successes in Westchester and really love working with the businesses here, down from Pershing all the way through to airport. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for being a part of the chamber and the LAX coastal community. And do you have anything else you would like to say to the world on this Friday?
No, I just want to thank you guys. This is really fantastic. And we were talking about this before. I think one of the byproducts of COVID is that these new type of outreach venues that we never would have thought of prior to being forced into our homes and not being able to touch and see and talk to people, are really integral to reaching out to larger and more diverse communities. So I think it's great you're doing this. I hope you get renewed for multiple seasons. And I know I will be watching each and every day, as long as it does not come on at the same time as Cobra Kai.
No, well, Cobra Kai's on Netflix, so that's no excuse.
On demand, so you can watch that whenever you want.
Well, I really want to say thank you for spending the time with us this morning. That was really great conversation. Like, I love talking about it, and you guys are doing some really incredible work, and thank you for that. I think, Meredith?
Yeah, I would say that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone stay tuned for next week's episode. Get excited about our guest. Do we want to keep it a secret?
I think we should keep it a secret. People can go online. We'll be announcing it up there. So go to the LAX Coastal Chamber Facebook page. Gee, can we plug this thing anywhere?
Nice plug.
So solid. Well, you actually said go to the directory. Like, I'm like, okay, that was good. That was good. Christina's like going, yeah, that was right. She coached you well.
I tried.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for being here. Meredith, go take your antibiotics and stay out of the ocean, please.
Perfect. I will be in pools from now on for a while. So thanks again. Everyone, like and share, follow the LAX Coastal Chamber. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank